Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. I have a new project on our radar today, Swisstronik. This is one I've come across over sort of the last few days, been doing some extra research on this one. I've even put together, if you want to call it this, a presentation for you all, which we'll go into shortly, relating to potential market caps, pricing of this token as it launches, and what we could potentially expect from that launch onwards, and some of the different criteria as well of the launch pads coming up and things like this. So I was quite intrigued by this particular project, purely because it has a lot of relation to Chainlink, something I've been following for many, many years. I'm quite excited about some of the technological advancements that Swisstronik try and portray, certainly in their white papers, their development programs. I don't pay too much attention to white papers, but I think the interesting information is definitely there. So we'll go into that shortly. Before we do, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel. Loads of different topics and discussions, different videos for you guys to check out. Do make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already, and smash that like button, please, so that we can hit better algorithms on the channel. So, Swisstronik, very, very quickly. There's no chart data, obviously, because this hasn't launched yet, which is why I'm quite excited about it. So, being a Swiss-based project, which I always find interesting, particularly in the financial world and crypto world, the Swiss have always been very powerful in this kind of area, in both elements, for sure. This is a layer 1 blockchain, and it's very much designed to enable the development of regulatory compliant, privacy preserving decentralized applications, or dApps. Okay, so this is actually built on the Cosmos network, which is again something else that really excites me. I haven't seen too many Cosmos related projects or platforms built on that network, but the Atom token of Cosmos is obviously very, very strong in the market for sure, both in historic data and what's to come as well. One thing that's interesting, of course, the usual things like Ethereum virtual machine compatibility is always there. So that's for the seamless integration with various different blockchain networks. So obviously that interoperable aspect is kind of ticking half of that box. Loads more to go, I'm sure, development-wise on that. But for me as well, and this is where I kind of like the comparison, if you like, with Chainlink, is the ability of its Intel SGX protocols and the zero knowledge proofs. So this can be related to what they call zk-SNARKs. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know what I'm talking about. zk-SNARKs I've relatively heard of, but I did some extra research just for you guys, just to sort of give a bit more of a platform on that. So that is, and I'm reading this out, this is not me talking from my brain. So zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive arguments of knowledge. Can you believe it? Huge abbreviation. Cryptographic proofs that allow one party, i.e. the prover, to prove to another party, the verifier, that they know a piece of information or a solution to a problem without revealing the information itself. So zero knowledge, the verifier learns nothing about the secret except that the prover knows it, the succinct aspect, the non-interactive aspect, and also arguments of knowledge. So the proof demonstrates the prover generally knows the secret. Example, Zcash apparently allows users to prove that transaction is valid without revealing details like sender, receiver, or amount, preserving privacy. So enhanced privacy, efficiency, improving large computations, applicable in blockchain identified systems, and secure data sharing. Intel SGX, again, not really massively familiar with that aspect, but software guard extensions. So this is a set of hardware-based security features built into Intel processors that enables the creation of secure enclaves, isolated regions of memory that are protected from unauthorized access, even from privileged software, including the operating system. So memory encryption, isolation, attestation, if I got that word right. So that's SGX provides a way to prove to a remote party that a coded data inside the enclave has not been tampered with. Example use case, secure computation, used for processing sensitive data securely, like privacy preserving computations or confidential transactions in cloud environments. So these are big areas, of course, within blockchain, loads of different sort of branch offs, if you like, of technology that's integrated with blockchain. It's quite interesting to see that. So you can start to see, if you know Chainlink really well, a lot of that is part of there as well. So very much protecting the data and confidentiality and integrity, but also enabling the security execution of sensitive tasks without revealing information. So I thought I'd throw that out there if anyone was generally interested. This website for Swisstronik, I'm not a massive fan of websites that keep flicking about, to be honest, but I guess this is more for mobile. Probably has a bit better of experience. But there's a lot of building going on at the moment, a lot of developers coming into Swisstronik, certainly utilizing the grant program. We'll talk about the aspect of the token, which I believe is SWTR, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, SWTR. I'll put that on my watch list now as well. There's only 5 people so far watching it. Very interesting. So who knows, we're the first 10 maybe to see this on CoinMarketCap. So yes, there's a lot of building going on there. There's a lot of community drive, not just now, but in the near future, because we are going into the launchpad modes very soon. I believe in Q1 of this year. I think it was supposed to be either the end of last year or the beginning of this year. And we'll do a bit of a breakdown of that as well, because they do have parts on their website that do go into fine detail about the breakdown of tokenomics. We'll break that down more detailed for sure in a second. But yes, very much finishing off the quick recap here of Swisstronik. So we've covered the SGX part, we've covered the zk-SNARKs. So the platform essentially really is providing a massive compliance tools. And something that's really interesting, of course, which is going on in the world right now, is massive legislations and regulations. So it's really adhering to all of that, GDPR, KYC, etc. Again, a lot of the things that Chainlink are providing. I mean, there's loads of other competitors, to be honest. I think you could look at like Zero Trust Block. I think is another one that sounds familiar in my mind to what this kind of sounds like. If you're looking at like another Swiss-based one as well, Concordium. If you haven't heard of those guys or the ones I just mentioned, go and check them out. But yeah, Chainlink is obviously a massive one. Everyone's pretty aware of that, whether you're potentially new to the crypto space or been in there for some time. It's a phenomenal project and company. I've been very honored to speak with their team in a couple of AMAs via Paris Blockchain Week last year as well. Really fantastic people. So yes, aiming to bridge the traditional finance, TradeFi, and decentralized finance, DeFi. I think DeFi in general, we should never forget this. Like, I know memes and AI agents and things like this taking over narratives, but DeFi is so gigantic, guys. Unbelievable. Especially for fostering, that broader blockchain adoption and real world use cases. This is what's really creeping in right now. So it's chosen Cosmos, from my understanding, and based on reading a lot of the research, of course, due to its modularity, is that the right word? The module building aspect of it, basically, the scalability, interoperability. This is a word that I've been pushing in the recent quant videos. Quant isn't just the only one that can be interoperable. I think that's really important when you're building frameworks, especially on like Cosmos SDK platforms. You want to ensure that you can operate with multitude of different chains at simultaneous times. So of course Cosmos is very renowned for that supportive mechanism of cross-blockchain interoperability, and the communication aspect as well. These communication aspects, I believe IBC is probably the best wording or abbreviation of it. That's inter-blockchain communication. This is a protocol based with seamless interaction within other blockchains. So this is important when we talk about things like the frameworks being built on Melta, in general for legislation around EU, UK, globally pretty much, to be honest. But Cosmos always boasts that kind of emphasis around easy deployment with developers. It's developer friendly. If you are a developer out there, by the way, and you use Cosmos or any other networks, please let me know, because I'm always fascinated by this particular area. I talked to a lot of developers based on the hackathon at Paris Blockchain Week last year. It was just a real eye-opener for me. Like, I kind of understood some of it, but like, wow, it was just incredible to see the rest of that. So, of course, when we're looking at like the markets of what Swisstronik is trying to achieve or work alongside, so B2C, B2B areas, of course, what's interesting to look at with this is the blockchain market in general. I mean, forget market caps for a second. This is potentially like a $1 trillion business by 2030, probably even more so, to be honest. I know there's stats that I've pulled out in previous videos that are, in my opinion, very conservative. There's an annual growth rate, I think, of like 52.8%, or a compound annual growth at least, in that forecasting period up to sort of 2030, 2032. But because it's like privacy preserving and the compliance aspect that Swisstronik provides, you're looking at a lot of big sectors there, not just finance, but things like healthcare. You imagine, we talked interestingly about Power Ledger in the energy sector in a previous video, but we've done many videos with like Solvecare, for example, and we've obviously done interviews with their team as well, relating to that EHR protocols of data privacy, security. But equally, we do need to allow the sharing of information to an extent to ensure that we have better healthcare, better medication possibly, or that communication between hospital and hospital, or doctors and doctors if you've been moving location in countries, or maybe you're even abroad and you've had an accident or something and that information needs sharing. It's very difficult to get that done at the moment. So having that verification, the processing, the validation via blockchain, plus all these things on top, or if it's the instance that it's a lucrative situation where privacy cannot be revealed but intricate detail can, that could be really interesting, like case study for sure. Supply chain management is obviously another gigantic one, multi-trillion-dollar market. So they're playing in some big areas or big opportunities of areas. I'm not suggesting that they're directly looking at those particular specific sectors, but that's what I'm saying it can definitely open up to. There's a whole multitude of information on their information decks, bit of a roadmap here as well. As I mentioned, I think some of this is slightly delayed, but certainly going into this year, it's very much close to that unveiling, that launchpad mechanism. I mean, some of these articles from May last year, but they're still relatively in line with what we're seeing today. And again, we'll talk about this token listing aspect in a short while. As I said, earning rewards, so a way they're building the community, a way they're building the token usage before it even launches, getting involved in the ambassador programs. You're probably going to see quite a bit of activity on this thing. And this is why I kind of pulled it up, because I was trying to find projects. It's always sometimes difficult to do with the time or the lack of time that I have. But when I've started seeing like ambassador movements in Telegram groups, or you start seeing comments and things, you kind of go, okay, what is this about? And so obviously people are getting paid to do that. You've got the development program, the grant program as well, which could really insinuate some extra sort of communication marketing aspects in these coming months as we lead more towards those launches. So that's very interesting. And also I looked into some of the team, the CEOs, the CTOs, some of them have worked together before. But one thing's for sure is they definitely all had experience in things like dApps and blockchain in general. The developers, of course, have had a multitude of years in this space already. So I think they're in good hands. There's a good like hierarchy of the founders. So a mix of CTO, CPO, CEO, all claim as their own sort of co-foundership. And they've got some good marketing people, good experience in there as well. A lot of people involved in content writing, community drives, etc., etc. So that's always a nice thing to see. And it's a nice thing to check out as well. Always try and use LinkedIn if possible to make sure, first of all, the people are real or doxed to that extent. You find out a bit more about the company and also their historic backgrounds of where they've worked before. So you can sort of gauge, is this just a startup or random people just thinking they got a great idea it's not going to go anywhere? No, these people have done this for some time. So I'm really pleased to see that aspect of it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about all that in your own research of this project as well. But yes, finally, just really quickly, I'm just going to mention this because we're going to go into my wonderful few presentation slides in a minute. Literally nothing spectacular visually, but this is the comparison to Chainlink. Now, some of this data is slightly out potentially, but you can see when it was first sort of deriving itself as a market cap volume amount, starting around 65 million. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward because it wasn't until I think around 2019 we had this jump from around 357 million market cap to 1.2 billion. It was just in that 1 month. And if you remember, in March 2020 we had the crash, so that took it down from 1.4 billion down to 794. But then since then it's had an absolutely fantastic run, really. Bit of fluctuations, of course, in the bear markets, but it's now sitting pretty at around 12 billion. So just keep those numbers in mind because, again, I don't like to use too much of a comparison, but it gives us a bit of an indication, in my opinion. So let's just have a quick look at my beautiful presentation. I do apologize, it's just text And hopefully this is mostly accurate, because I mean, back and forth with calculations, amending things, using some generators and stuff like that as well. So at the moment, and this is based on the white paper, by the way, which I'll leave a link to at the end of this video from Swisstronik. So over 310 million SWTR total supply, fully diluted valuation FDV of 186 million. So from my understanding, the token price launch, this may be subject to change, by the way. They're looking to, I believe, launch on exchanges when that time eventually occurs at 60 cents. So 186 million divided by 310 million, based on that 60-cent token price point of listing. Now, I've done the breakdown for you. This is literally taken from the white paper. Well, not even the white paper, it's the Medium article. So there's a lot of breakdowns here of where this distribution of the 310 million is going. So you've got DEX aspect here. Just by the way, this unlocking here, I believe this part is going to act as liquidity for exchanges. In addition to that, you've got the seed rounds. This is where you get like venture capitalists and things like that. Private rounds is probably a bit more open to things like ambassadors, developers, etc. And then you've got the elements of the public rounds, the ecosystem in general. So this is a multitude of obviously launchpad effects and things like that. You've also got some other numbers down here in regards to other breakdowns that they've listed on that. So I've done my best to kind of like capture some of that. So when we go into the aspect of initial market capitalization, or the MC, there's a bit of calculation. Again, just take this with a pinch of salt, basically. But it's trying to give a bit of a gauge as to where we could try and achieve in the short term and the long term of this price launch on, well, essentially exchange. Forget the launch pads, because those are ultimately lower prices anyway. But there's a potential upside here. And again, pinch of salt. The first week's performance, we could hit a potential price point of $180 to $3, a market cap of 57 to 95. So raring back to Chainlink's market cap of opening kind of weeks. I know, as I said, it's slightly off. It was around 60 million. So you can almost put it in the middle, really, of this number. If demand is weak, of course, that could drop. It could drop completely from 60. It could go way down to 10, 20. So I'm just keeping it conservative at this moment in time. You've got the calculations here, the public, the seed, the private, the DEX, total potential raised there. And then we get to the nitty-gritty parts of potential 5-year projections. The reason I put 5 years, you've got to understand that, okay, partnerships are building, development's building, but you look to the future and the progression of blockchain as a market sector, the sectors that they could be potentially gearing towards, and how long that's going to take for education, adoption, integration, right? So we have to bear all those kind of variables in mind to suggest that, yes, this is completely conservative. It's a pinch of salt, but I always like to look at the longevity of a project. I'm not a massive advocate, personally, based on experience, or maybe poor experience, of getting involved too much in launch pads and then initial DEX offerings or token generation events and things like that. You have to be really on the ball with most of it. And I don't have the time or management to do that all the time. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert. Many of you out there are probably so used to it and saying, what you're talking about is really easy, but I just don't. But in some instances, like projects like this, I'm really eager to get as much information as possible early on and get myself prepared. So it's definitely a project I'm interested in to potentially get at least the launch pad. I missed the, I think the private sale. So yeah, I'm open to the public sale. I'm trying to get their team as well on an AMA, which I think would be fantastic. Also, I think they're great individuals by the looks of it in their careers. So this 5-year projection, taking in some considerations of compliance, market growth in general. So privacy and compliance is taking consideration of what Swisstronik is kind of gearing towards. Blockchain overall markets as well. The optimistic case, this is cool. 10 to 30 times off its current price, so $6 to $18, market cap of 1.8 to 5.58 billion. Now, if you remember from the screenshots I showed you of Chainlink, as we just talked to you about, that had like a 2-year progression before it started getting into the $1 billion mark. But that's because the market back in 2017-18, yes, it had a lot of projects that hit like all-time highs at that point. But it took a while for the market and awareness, etc., of crypto to really build. And I'd say 2021 was the big marker. And that's why it kind of emphasized that kind of period of time when Chainlink got into these kind of numbers. So it's not even hitting really that $12 billion mark that Chainlink's currently at. the other comparison to that is Chainlink is way advanced in its development, its integrations with projects, companies, businesses, you name it. So Swisstronik has got a long way to go to encourage people to move away from projects like that over to Swisstronik, but also to gather that awareness and that projection power, that marketing power, to showcase that it is in that league. So for me, actually, I'm probably at this moment in time, as most instances, always looking at the conservative to the moderate cases, in my opinion. Again, this kind of sits quite nicely with that narrative that if it launches correctly this year with good marketing, and the bull run does coincide with this, if it still goes ahead, of course, I think this is definitely achievable. And that would be quite a nice return, 5 to 10x from the initial starting point of 60 cents. But even at the conservative level, I'm not massively excited about this. And that's why I think if it was to do this, I'd just be like, well, I'm interested in it. I'm going to hold it at the lower prices possible. And I'm just going to hold it for the next 5-10 years, see what happens. That's legitimately what I'm going to be considering if it does hit this amount, because a double price is just not that interesting to me, in all honesty. This is definitely something where I'd be taking initial investments out and, you know, maybe projecting a bit more of a plan with you guys on the videos as to our buying and selling techniques throughout the next year to 5 years. Let's see where it comes out. But as I said, there's a multitude of other numbers including this. This is just taking some of the really like intricate detail out of that paper. I'll just switch back to what they've presented, so you've got a bit more of an idea of this. So again, that's just found on the Unveiling Medium article here, and I've got a full entire breakdown up here: seed, private rounds, public rounds, all the different systems here, treasury, etc. So it gives you a bit of an idea, and I even input the calculations of the vesting periods, the cliff periods, etc. So those numbers that I showed you on that presentation may be out, but it gives you a bit of a rough idea of some of the expectations, the potential expectations. I may have got it completely wrong. It might be right. It might be in the middle somewhere. But as I said, pinch of salt, take it as you will. I did my best to calculate it as much as I could. So that's a bit of a roundup, guys, of Swisstronik. As I said, I don't have any like chart data, but some of the key principles here with Swisstronik, as I just mentioned, is looking to have those kind of launch phases in Q4 2024, which is obviously gone and passed, into Q1 2025. So just keep an eye on this. As it has mentioned here, initial value of 60 cents per one SWTR on tier 1 exchange, apparently. That could change, it could alter. So keep all this in mind. It's always risky with new projects, but this is definitely a project that I think could really stand out and could maybe take the crypto place by storm, just because it's new, it's different, it's fresh. It's got great technology opportunities behind it. It's got a good team behind it. It could give maybe not Chainlink at this moment in time, but some of the other competitors a run for its money in this run. And certainly I think because it's a new project, you're always going to have that expectation of good returns anyway. Irrespective of 5-10 years time, they might have been reduced in terms of the impact of what could be returned monetary wise. But it's something to think about. Let us know if you've heard of this project before, guys. I'm going to wrap this video up there. We'll keep an eye on it, and I'll keep you updated through the community post section on YouTube in relation to any dates that I can see of the upcoming launch pads and also the exchange listings. Just keep an eye on it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.